Okay, so I will not introduce me. I will just say what.
No, I mean, I would like you to introduce the behavioral
Hello guys,
experience.
we will start the open panel in 3 minutes. I'm muting ourselves now, but we wanted everything to be set up.
explain them about the position and so on.
Yes, amazing. Okay, so welcome back. Let's take our seats. We're going to soon start our panel discussion. How is this logistically going to work? Here you can see our moderator, that is Lucia. Here you also have a presentation in which she has put the questions so that you can guide yourselves through the panel. Okay, not the full questions, but the overall things that they should be answering, not the context behind questions. How we have chosen to divide this is that there will be around 5 questions. I know it's not that many, but it's 3 applicants. So if they take around 2 minutes each to answer, we'll reach about 30-35 minutes. And then you have around 10 minutes to make any questions from the audience, okay? There's not that much time for 20 questions, so maximum probably 2 that we can take from you. So if you want to talk between yourselves and see what else you would like to ask, then you can do that. And that's it. The applicants will sit here. When one goes first, then they go last in the next question, rotationally, da da da. Lucia will also clarify the order for the applicants. And, that's it. Questions? No? Okay. Then, one moment, you don't need to stand on your chairs this time because it's an external panel, okay? But please also clap and welcome. Yes, you're coming. Why? Hello, hello. Can you talk to see if she can hear you from there? Say hello.
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Can you hear me? Yes, I can hear you all.
Can you hear Lucia?
Yes.
Yes, amazing. Logistics sounds good. Okay, so first I want to introduce you, Lucia, not only to our applicants, but also to our General Assembly. These are our presidents, and you also have my team in the back, okay? They're the ones who are going to be judging the applicants and they're answering the questions and so on. But what really matters is the ones that you see here in front of you, okay, that hopefully you can see properly. So just to quickly introduce, this is Lucia. She was also my coaching manager during RPM. She's a person who's been in Isaac since 2018, if I'm correct, right? And she had already she's coming from Isaac in Germany, okay? And she has already also had 2 MC experiences and so on. I will let her explain a little bit more to you. She's also a person who has just graduated, congratulations, in a very, in a degree that is very cool and very aligned with things that I want this panel to bring. So I'm very excited to have you here, Lucia. Thank you for accepting. And now I will let you introduce yourself and start the panel. How it's going to work, the timer is here, applicants, okay? Like I told you, 45 minutes will start and then 2 minutes for each one of you, okay? Amazing. I pass the mic to you, Lucia.
Perfect, thank you so much. It is also a privilege to be here with you in this panel. About myself, I joined Isaac in 2018 as an OG member, then SCPTF, SCP, OGB consultant of the EST, then team leader, TM EST, and TM twice, argument manager, and now I'm here with you. And I think something that I'm entirely grateful for towards ISIC is also how it allowed me to connect with Germany, which is not the country I was born in, but it's a country that I chose to live in and to impact every day. So I'm also really proud to see you three applicants choosing to impact Portugal. And being part of a panel in which we're also addressing the fact that the world is shaped by complex political shifts. It's essential for organizations to understand this context, this landscape, and also their role in shaping it. And of course, as a global youth leadership movement, we are influenced and responsible for the context we're part of. So as part of this NCP election process, we're going to invite some discussion for us to connect with the external world and explore and navigate these challenges we're facing and the opportunities that we have in this situation. So I will be asking questions. You will see the main part of the question in the slide, but please focus on the everything I'm saying. And we're going to start the first question with Isa. You have 2 minutes. You can choose whether you answer right away or you take some time to think. Then will be Andrea, and then there will be Christina. And then we will start rotating. Is it clear?
Yes.
Perfect. And we go to the first question, which is, considering the political, social, economical issues faced globally, which events do you think have had the greatest impact on youth? And what do you think should be ISIC's role in addressing these events that have shaped society and youth? Agrita, you can define when these are concerned.
When the timer starts, you can start.
Okay, I can start. For me, first of all, it's related to brain drain. For example, when you think about Portugal, it's a country where 30% of the population lives abroad. So Portugal is not a country where the young people want to stay. And it's also something that we observed in the latest Youth Speak survey, where around 41% of the young people they want to leave. Which means that 41% of us want to live permanently. So for me, also to do with how the different sectors of society create conditions in terms of employment, in terms of economical benefits as well. For me, the second event that has also had greatest impact also has to do with the current war conflicts going on. Not something like direct, because at first we were saying that it doesn't have an effect. But when you think about the economical issues of immigration, xenophobia, for example, and for me, when you think about the last thing of how ISAC should play, what role ISAC should play, is in terms of through our programs, through our membership, create, develop leadership, and enable these people to have these experiences.
You can finish your thought.
Okay, all right. So for me, the role ISAC should play is to through our programs, for example, volunteering programs, to make. Sorry, I can't.
Can you move next?
Personally, I think it depends on what specific area we're discussing about because the world is a very complex place. So then there are different sectors that the youth is involved in. For example, we're talking about the economical part. And here we can discuss about the young people from Portugal, which do not currently have the necessary means to survive consistently without their parent support. Or, for example, if we're talking about economic in general, like we know that young people from Portugal currently need to live with 2 or 3 more people in the same house in order to sustain living, basic living costs. Or even if we're discussing about people who are leaving, as Lisa was mentioning, like we have a lot of people who decide to go for masters in other countries because the economic situation is better. But from another perspective, I also wanted to mention here overall like the social media, because I feel that social media plays an important role in Gen Z currently. I read a study I think a few days ago, and it said that Gen Z is spending around 4 hours on social media every day, which is a lot of time. And I think that it's also something that Isaac can capitalize on a lot, because currently I feel that also maybe in terms of our content that we're having on Isaac in Portugal can be more diversified, can be more connected with Reels, for example. And in general, I think that Isaac as a youth leadership platform has, first of all, the responsibility of educating the young people towards important matters. Second of all, it helps them understand how can they actually contribute to the problems that we're having. And as a last thing, I think that Isaac is a very good connector between the business environment and in general, like the young people.
Considering all of the facts like that you mentioned, it's also things that I've been thinking about. I think that when like taking a step back, thinking what's happening in the world, the first thing that at least comes to my head, I think it's also affecting in Portugal and globally, is what is happening with many changes. We see changes in the way that we work. Many people work remote, many people work hybrid. We see changes in the way that we interact. As you said, many people spend a lot of time on social media. We see changes in the way that countries are working, what is happening not only with work conflicts, but also with elections happening, say in the USA, and everything being like having an effect on anything. And actually, what is really like even more interesting is the fact that people, youth people, are actually bringing their opinion into social media. There have been many people stating what they think on many facts about the war, about the elections, about working remotely. And I feel that what is actually happening now is that we tend to under-glorify the fact of how the society was built, how we are working, how everything should be 9 to 5, and all of these things. So taking all of this into consideration, I think that what we need to start as ISEC in general, not ISEC in Portugal, is from the people that we have in the organization, how we show that the relevance of ISEC into our membership, how we are actually developing leadership into our members first, and how do we see them becoming ISEC ambassadors. Then, in order to support all of this, comes how is our virtual presence, how are we more, as you said, capitalizing on the trends, because we're not. It's like we are refusing that we are Gen Z, and we are just saying, how will I react to Gen Z? And we are not acting on the fact of how we would expect to be treated.
Thank you very much. And with this, we can also go to a second question, which is connected to the society and the youth, as you mentioned, and the changes that we observe in the youth, and what it means for us as a youth leadership organization to also work with youth. For this question, I want to give you some context. First of all, generation Z is sometimes characterized as lacking urgency, persistence, or consistency in the work. And this perspective is often used to explain the challenges that ISEC might face with membership, including struggles to balance personal interest with the selflessness that sometimes is expected within ISEC to serve ISEC's mission. So my question to you is, what is your perspective on this observation of youth? And what do you think are the underlying reasons for the membership challenges for working with the different generation as we have right now? We will start with Cristina, followed by Israel, and then Andrea.
So, for me, this perspective lies like somewhere in the middle. I find myself both agreeing and disagreeing. I do think that we have a lack of urgency in many things, but I think that generations moving forward are not taking into consideration how we are evolving as a world. Young people are even more motivated than ever to be doing things. There are many organizations, there are many activities. We just see people doing activities everywhere. But I do think that the way that things are evolving is going on to the fact that we have a lot of information and we do not know to which we should focus more on. So this is why I do get the part that there is a lack of urgency, I do agree, but I also see that there is a lack of urgency sometimes because we do not know actually where to focus, what needs to happen first. So for me, in this matter, membership challenges, if I'm understanding well the question talking about how we are in the entity and working with different generation is the fact that we actually need to understand even more like how the people are working. And yes, this is a cliche thing to say that we need to understand Gen Z and we need to understand those people, but the thing that we actually need to do is to build more of a culture space for like honest conversations, transparency, the thing that Isaac is evolving this way, the world is evolving this way. We have this amount of, how is the English word? This amount of interest on things that we do. How can we keep the relevance of Isaac, because it has to do with the mission and the vision. Isaac will forever be relevant on that. On the things that we are used to doing now, how can we make Isaac more up to date, keeping the relevance and the standards that it has?
Isa, what about you?
Sim, for me, I agree with Christina in the sense that, for example, some years ago, for example, my mother, she always had the perspective that you start a job, you stay in this job for 5, 10 years. So, for example, when you have a new generation that is looking not just for the money, but also for how can I learn from this, how can I want to learn in practice, and it's looking for something more than just a job, we have this conflict of generation because we have one generation, the oldest one, saying, hey, I don't understand how you're working, you cannot focus, you want different things all the time, and then we have the Gen Z. But the thing for me is, first, we need to understand from them what they want, and then adapt our content, how we're working. Because if I approach a Gen Z and I'm like just theoretically speaking for 1 hour, I lose the attention of that person the first 10 minutes, for example. So to make it practical, and for me, honestly, I believe that each one of us, we have a bit of a Gen Z inside us. Because none of us want something only theoretical. Only one of us wants to learn something, for example, from practice, for example. So for me, one of the main underlying reasons is that we are not adapting, we don't adapt in this sense, even organizations, for example, they keep doing the same way and say, hey, I don't understand Gen Z. Gen Z leaves the organization, that position, and they keep asking themselves, what did I do wrong, for example? So for me, that's the case, and also in terms of feedback cultures, understanding how's your experience going, for example, and implementing this feedback. So for me, that's my perception about observation of youth. I don't think that Gen Z is lazier, and it was even something that was on people discussing a lot in LinkedIn. I don't think that Gen Z is lazier. I believe that the problem is that both generations still haven't understand how to work with each other, and they are always in this battle as if it's one generation versus the other.
I honestly really agree with my colleagues. I think they're very good points. Overall, what I would personally add is that also Isaac is a youth leadership movement, but something that I feel that we're constantly lacking is, as you said, understanding the young people and like understanding how to work with them. Personally, I think that also the young people are very diverse in terms of what they like, what they don't like, their behaviors. Because, for example, you guys are here and you are part of Gen Z, and we're all part of Gen Z, and maybe we are like in urgency sometimes, but it's not all of us. So I think it's also a matter of diversity and what kind of people were in the first place recruiting in ISEC, what are the personas that we're looking for, and then in the second place, I think it's also about the inner and outer journey that we're having inside ISEC, because it's very important for Gen Z, especially for us, to make sure that we're taking something personally out of this experience, that we make sure that we're growing. But then in the point in which, for example, we don't see an added value, of course we give up and we don't care. So I think it's a matter of how are we targeting and how are we capturing the attention and the interest of the young people in the first moments that we interact with them. I think this is the main problem right now, besides what my colleague said. And in general, when it comes to membership challenges, I feel like this is also something that is lacking from our side, which is more adaptability and more change, let's say, in terms of the products that we're running. Because the products have been the same in the last 10 years. It's just the way that we've been working with them that has been different. And also the Isaac purpose. Isaac purpose has been here since 1948. And we still have a lot of young people that want to join.
Thank you very much for all of your answers. And now with this, we can have the third one, and which is about Portugal and the Portuguese currency. And well, first of all, Portugal has historically been seen as a progressive and really inclusive country, yet far-right parties like Che Ga are gaining traction. So, in your opinion, what social and political factors are contributing to the rise of these movements, and how should Portuguese society also respond to these challenges? And we will start with Andrea, followed by Cristina, and then Isa.
I believe that in general, the infrastructure that we're currently having in Portugal is a good one, but I think it can be improved. For example, if we're talking about the people that do not have access to heat in the winter, if we're talking about people that are dropping out of education, because even though we have it lower than in different countries or territories, it's still happening. So we still have problems that we need to solve as a country in general. And I think that the reason why these parties are being more visible, especially for the young people and for people in general, I think it's because they know how to capitalize on the weaknesses that are existing in the society right now. And also something that really noticed, and I feel it's also something that has been happening in East Europe, is that these parties are using a lot of social media to promote what they want to do, and then they use a very good message in order to promote these things. So I feel that these are some factors in general that are contributing. First is the society and the problems that we're having in the society and how people are taking advantage of it. And in general, I would also say that how people are learning how to use social media and how to adapt to different kinds of generation and different types of people. And in general, like one thing that I noticed was the fact that there is even though we have a lot of diverse people in Portugal, there is also this problem of actually understanding how to work in a diverse environment, for example, because we have a lot of people who are coming from different countries to Portugal, or people who are living, so then we need to see how can we also combine cross-cultural communication in general in the approaches that we're having. And I think the society is responding according to what they understand the best. How can they understand the best? I think it's through education, because education is essential when it comes to political parties.
I totally get your point, to be honest, and I see like how you're structuring it. In my perspective, what I'm thinking, why there is like such a big rise in what we see now in the right movements. It all comes from the parts that we discussed also before. Like there are some trends that we are noticing. There is the trend of brain drain. There is the trend of shifting to a different type of working environment. All of these are actually actively like influencing how things are going, and they're actually actively influencing the fact that we can see a trend of people indeed living from Portugal. And I think that what is happening now is the fact that there is a rise in the right movements because people are trying to cause a reaction and actually keep people and see how this can be actually done with maybe sometimes also statements that are more like on a really like diverse, let's say, path, or a one that is like a big statement to make. So I think that what is happening now in this part is that there is a rise because of all of the things that are constantly changing. There is a constant change, and what the Portuguese society could be doing is like always a reaction is bringing a change. What we are not changing, it's something that we are choosing. And I think that this is something that we should act more upon. Like, we should see more like movements. We should see also more like taking also responsibility as a youth in this organization. We should act more like, to the things that we do not like on how they can be improved. We should actually like show them more on our social media platforms or actually like talk more about it to cause the awareness. Because if we are not the ones initiating the awareness as like young people, how are we expecting it to be spread and actually see answers and then like things being evolving and changing if it's not coming from leaders who are actually talking in the eyes. So I think it can also have a really big influence.
Yes, Justin, I totally agree with you, in the sense that I believe that youth should also be respond to those. For example, Hungary is a country where the same person has been in the power for 10 years. It's a lot biased. And when you see the results of the elections, basically you have all the countryside where the elderly people are voting pro that person because they were influenced, and you have Budapest, for example, who is against. So, for example, in the case of Portugal, what happens is that Portugal is a country where young people are leaving to countries like the UK, the Netherlands, because they see better employment conditions, economic situations. And the elderly people, for example, they see the housing increasing, for example. You see, the government opened the doors for these foreigners to come, and things are worse because of that. And you also have social media capitalizing on that. Because on one hand, social media is a blessing, but social media can also be a curse. In the sense that if I'm always liking the same type of content, if I like a video of Christina saying that Shega, we don't need foreigners in our country, social media bring more and more of those contents. So I'm gonna jump and get in a bubble. And because that's what I see, that's going to affect my perception of the world. So the perception of the people about far right movements, their perception of their own perception about the world. And now, for me, these are the social factors that also contribute to the rise of far right movements as well. It was also you mentioned. Now, how should police respond to this challenge? First one is also in terms of cross-cultural communication, education, as you mentioned, and also young people speaking up, speaking their voice, using movement, capitalizing social media to say what they think and break this bubble, for example.
Thank you very much for your insights. And I think you also have the rise of far right is also connected to certain unsatisfaction with the current state of the country, which I think is also good to understand. And for this context that in which I place an important role in understanding such dynamics. And now we're going to go into a topic which is connected to Portugal, but also about one of our sustainable development goals, which is gender equality. And for this, some context is that gender inequality remains a persistent issue in Portugal, with women earning less than men on average and being underrepresented in leadership positions across various sectors. So, what would you say are the main barriers to achieving gender equality in Portugal, and what steps should society take to address them? And for this, we will start with Isa, followed by Andrea, and then Christina.
Amazing. When it comes to the achievement of the SDGs, indeed, the Sustainable Development Reports that was launched, the latest one was launched in June. It says that Portugal is progressing well in some of the SDGs, for example, energy, but is also not progressing fast enough in some of them, which is, for example, gender equality. And from personal experience, something that I also, as contacting to companies, I observed is that we have some sectors, for example, economy, where we have a bigger, better distribution in terms of gender equality as well. But for example, when you look at sectors like IT, industrial, those are sectors that is a stereotype. Women, no, I'm not for this, I don't think this is industry for men, for example. So for me, there are different steps that should be taken. The first one, in terms of society, is to show from the early stage, for example, that hey, for example, Andrea, this job is not just it's not necessary for women or only for men. You can also do that. So understand what are my actual passions, what do I want to do, and in that, regardless of what industry or what job, that is for me. And for me also, there's a second thing in terms of steps, which is from companies to have a gender strategy for more focused on gender equality. For example, in Isaac, 69% of the current EB is made of women. Isaac is an example of an organization that succeeds in gender equality. The previous PAI was woman and Portuguese. So for me, in terms of steps, Besides, reinforcing gender equality in terms of, for example, of recruitment, also going to the schools and reaching those young people, young girls right from the early age that, hey, it doesn't matter what job is, it matters your passion, what you want to do. And yes, this is for you. There's not like a label, this is for men, this is for women. So this is my perspective about how society should address.
From my perspective, I believe it also has to do with the political parties that we've been discussing before, because if we have specific political parties that are gaining more awareness, of course, they have more traditional values and traditional opinions. So I think this is also something that's helping Portugal in general to achieve higher results in terms of this, and also in general, I think it's also due to the lack of policies implemented by the companies in general, because this is not something that it's written by the law, because if it would be written by the law, companies would need to comply with it.